Mothers of War,
The
the
What
What If
If
Show.
Show.
What If Show, hosted by Darius Davis, where real issues meet real people, where culture meets college paths, from community leaders to athletes, activists to everyday voices. If it matters to people, it matters here.
Where
So
the
ask yourself,
truth,
what if we actually
ain't the only
what if we
truth that
listened? What if change
exists?
started with a conversation?
Every street got a story, every block got a legend, every city got a what if, every rumor got a message. We take the myth, the whispers in the night, flip the script, shine a light, turn the shadows into sign. What if studio?
The What If Show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Darius Davis with the What If Show. Right now I have my guy Sam Perry coming in to the show. It's gonna refresh right quick, like, and be right back with us. 1 second. All right, I got my guy right now, Sam Perry. Come to the show. He's University of Clemson basketball player. Also, he was played high school basketball. I'm gonna allow him to go ahead and introduce himself and tell a little bit about himself right quick, like for us. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah. Hey, first of all, Darius, hey, thanks for having me on, man. It's a pleasure, man. Long time.
Man, long time, man. I'm so glad you came on, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. So, yeah, man. Sam Perry, born and raised in Abbeville, well, actually, Edwin, Alabama, but yeah, from the great state of Alabama and a native of Abbeville. And yeah, man, baby of 10, so large family. So the baby out of the Perry bunch, certainly enjoyed. The community enjoyed, everywhere where we're from, and certainly appreciated the opportunity to also spend time in South Carolina. So really my second home, and yeah.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. So glad to have you, man. I just want to ask you the first question, man. How did Abbeville shape your mentality and your work ethic?
Yeah, no, I think it's. I would just say, first of all, we come from a rural area. Obviously Southeast Alabama, so really just a blue collar, hardworking city, man. I just think about all the folks that we came up with, and just making a way. Everyone doing everything that they needed to do, having that really community feel. Come from a great family, man. My dad was a hard worker. Really worked, man, a zillion hours to feed, the family. And obviously, like I said, come from a large family. But not only that, man, I had the pleasure of growing up in Edwin, seeing great, great family and great neighbors, like Mr. Will, Pop, just many neighbors that we grew up with, man, and just seeing that example of hardworking men and just hardworking people in general. You know what I mean? Obviously, our city, our town is a very proud town, man. And so that's something that's always stuck in me, man. So certainly something that's just never, that fabric and those fundamentals have never left me, man.
Awesome, man. Awesome. We come from like I said, a basketball area. So when did basketball first become serious for you?
There's, obviously, man, coming from Abbeville, it's funny, like our sport, even though we come from a football state, it's funny, our sport is basketball, right? Obviously, guys that play basketball, play football and baseball, but, it's funny, we just come from a basketball state. So I would just say, from the time I can remember, man, obviously having, I had two older brothers, that both played at Abbeville High. One played in 1990, James Perry, called him Perry Dog, played in 1990. And then I had another brother, Eric Perry, that played class of 94 as well. So, just playing, in the backyard, just playing in our neighborhood. I just remember always hearing the stories, of all the greats. And also going to the games, and then, after going to the game, you know how it is, man. I remember I was talking to somebody the other day, I don't know if you remember this, Darius, but do you remember trying to get the wristband from the players after the game
Yeah, yeah, I
and
remember
having
that,
those,
man. Yeah,
having those memories, man? And so I think it was just embedded, and like I said, just coming from my area is obviously a basketball, state, man. And so just a basketball area. So it's from the time I can remember, man.
yeah, that's what's up, man. Can you kind of remember any mentors or coaches that helped influence you during that time period?
Yeah, no, I would just say growing up, now for me, I was fortunate, man. I had brothers, that really taught me the game and really, poured into me and showed me, everything that I needed, really to have. And just, like I said, City League was something that was huge for us. And so, shoot, man, I had a brother, Eric, that actually was in college, but was coming back one year just to coach me in City League, and so I would just say, number one, man, my family having just great, great older brothers that poured into me, taught me the game, but then also too, I just think about some of my City League coaches that volunteered their time. I think of Mickey Baker, Coach Baker, was one of them. Man, I think Preston Horn was another one of our coaches that took out the time. And I know there's many, man, that I'm just forgetting to mention, man. But I would just say the influence that I had coming up was really, man, I would just say my brothers, and then just the neighborhood in our area, man. Like I said, we just ingrained in us, to be a Yellow Jacket one day and just play ball and represent Abbeville, man. So again, just fortunate for just to come up in our area, man. That's the biggest thing that I can say, Darius.
Wow, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I remember when you guys moved to South Carolina, from Alabama to South Carolina. Can you kind of talk about that when you moved? Do you have any different changes? What was different about living in Abbeville to going to South Carolina?
Yeah, no, I appreciate. Yeah, that was so born and raised obviously in Abbeville, man. But unfortunately, man, my mom passed and transitioned, in '98 when I was 12, and so we still stayed. I stayed there for a few years, obviously, but I think we decided it was probably best, and I say we, just having older siblings and my dad just decided maybe it was best to just kind of get a different change of scenery, and had an older brother that had played basketball in South Carolina. And so he played in a school division, that was the NAIA in Greenwood, South Carolina, Landon University. And so he pretty much had stayed in South Carolina. And so he was also coaching. And so we just thought, let's maybe, take this approach and take this route. So going up to South Carolina to start high school was a big change. And it was something, man, that I can tell you that first year, Darius, in 2000, got to think, man, right when I left, we had just won the chip for 14 years. Funny, I saw one of the cats. I saw Chris, which, by the way, man, Chris was a bad boy, man, Chris Jackson. But I saw,
He was.
Yeah, he was cold, man. But that was me and him, man. We used to go. We was tight, man. That was my dog. But anyway, I was just thinking about the transition going from Alabama to South Carolina. It was huge, man. I mean, homesick. Really ready to maybe come back. But it ended up being the best thing for me, only because just being able to be adaptable and just be flexible and nimble with changes, and figuring out a way and being resilient. So really came from a smaller town to a more mid-sized city with a couple 100,000. So I left a town, what was Abbeville, 2,500, 3,000 people.
Yeah.
to a town of a couple 100,000. And so, in fact, I came from, we came from Henry County with 2 high schools, and and I moved to South Carolina in Greenville County. Man, we had 18 high schools in the county. And so, it was a big change. I say that to say, man, it was tough that first year. Really, the first 2 years were really tough. But man, it was really, it's really a great thing for us to do, man. So glad we did it. Taught the resilience, different environment, different scenery. And yeah, man, certainly no regrets.
Okay. All right. So when you first got there, man, I know you talked about the first 2 years were very difficult.
Yeah.
So did you have some like extra fuel by being a new kid when you got there, or how did that work out for you?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You know how it is, man. Like I said, just definitely coming from a smaller town and coming to a city, just had to prove myself. And so, but luckily, I did go to a great school and a lot of cats that were welcoming. In fact, man, they were great, man. So, I would say on the court, just proving yourself. And but luckily, man, hey, I'm a jacket at heart. So at the end of the day, I got the fight, I got the will, and certainly know how to just go out there and play hard. And so I was able to prove myself right off the bat. And I would just say off the court, just, acclimate myself to a different environment. But the people were great. It's funny, man. I went to 2 high schools in South Carolina, Darius. So
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah. And now my brother coached me all 4 years. He was an assistant coach, all 4
Okay.
years. But I went to one school for 2 years, and then I transitioned to a school that I was actually assigned to. So I went to Travis Rest High School up here in South Carolina, and then I transitioned to another school where I finished out, which really is my home, which is Woodmont High School. But it was good, man. The best thing I ever did, because in fact, I don't know about you, Darius, but man, growing up, I don't remember us. I don't remember AAU, and maybe AAU was around, but yeah. Do you remember?
It was around, but it wasn't really there for us, for real.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. So we didn't have an AAU team back in the Ville, right?
We didn't.
Okay. Yeah, man. So that was one of the things that really changed, and I'll just say that was one of the things that really helped me out. And again, nowadays AAU is everywhere, but back
It's everywhere.
then,
Yeah.
man, when you play AAU, you were really like, the one of the one of the best guys from your school. It was truly an all-star team back then. And so I say that to say, when I first got up there, after I finished my freshman year in South Carolina, man, one of the guys came to me and just mentioned AAU. Man, Darius, I had no idea. That's how green I was. I had no idea, man, what AAU was. You know what I'm saying? I really didn't. But anyway, I say all that to say, man, that just kind of speaks to how things really started working out for me, and meeting some of the guys up here, and then getting involved in travel ball. And anyway, that happened after the 9th grade year, and that was huge, actually, from a sports perspective.
Yeah, man, that's amazing, man. I did a little research on you, and I think it said you averaged 27 points and 14 rebounds a game. So kind of what was clicking for you during that time period, man, for you to be able to be that successful?
Man, I would say the first couple of years, funny enough, when I first got out there, man, I actually made varsity and started. It was a tough transition, just being smaller and obviously needing to gain weight. But man, just being able to play tough and being able to, again, just battle it out, I was able to just kind of keep progressing from my freshman year to my sophomore year. But by the time, I hit my senior year, and I was averaging, over 20 points, almost close to 30 actually that year. I was in my stride, man. Like I felt really good. I'm strong. I felt like I knew my game, had the confidence I needed. And man, I would really credit that to just hooping, man. And when I moved to South Carolina, man, I moved to this neighborhood, man, where we had some guys, man. And so in our school, man, we had a tough school, man. We had some guys that can go. And so, in fact, man, I played with, another D1, college athlete, and then another college athlete that also played in Division II. So, during my time at Woodmont, man, we played with some guys, man. And so just had some real talented guys. But I would just say, Darius, man, just a combination of, working out, playing AAU each summer. And in fact, going into my senior year, that's when it all started really clicking, man. And so as far as offers, scholarship offers, doing getting the looks, And like I said, by the time my senior year rolled around, man, it was, I felt good. I felt pretty good. That's why I was able to put up some pretty decent numbers that last year, man.
Okay, okay. Now it says that you ended up winning back-to-back state championships. How was that, Sam?
Now, I wish it was state championships, but we went to the Final Four back to back.
Okay,
So
Final Four.
yeah. Now, man, you're bringing up nightmares for me, Darius. Now, I wish it was, I wish it was back to back. We won what we call in South Carolina the upper state.
Okay.
But basically, Darius, I went to 2 Final Fours in South Carolina.
Okay.
So we just lost in that last 4 4 games, man. We lost. And the team that we lost to back-to-back, we lost to the same team back-to-back years. But, I mean, listen, one thing I tell anybody, man, I mean, their point guard went to Georgia Tech. So it's not like, like we lost to anybody that was slouch. In fact, my junior year, they had the point guard went to Georgia Tech. Then they had a forward that went to Clemson. Now, he played football, but he was still 6'6", defensive end.
Yeah.
And actually, he got drafted. He was the second round NFL draft pick, back in 2007, 08. So anyway, I said that to say, man, we didn't lose to no slouch. But either way, man, that was something that definitely I wanted to accomplish and bring a championship for our school. But yeah, we lost in the Final Four back-to-back years, man.
Wow. So I was looking at, they said you were ranked top 75. Kind of talk about the recruitment process, man. What made you choose Clemson, and so talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Now, like I said, man, just one, playing AAU was huge. But not only just playing AAU, because like I said, I know it's just saturated now, but back then, you really played and had some guys that can really go, and so I would just say being able to stand out, because we played, we played in all the national tournaments. We played regional tournaments. We stayed in South Carolina, North Carolina, and then Georgia, and sometimes Florida. And then we started being able to, really pick up and progress. And went out to Vegas. And I would just say probably end of my sophomore year, Darius, I think it really started clicking for me, man. I went to this camp in New Jersey. It was a pretty big camp, man. I remember Kyle Lowry, Josh Boone, I think maybe Rudy Gay. Anyway, it was a big camp, man. And I did end up doing well there, man. And that's where I got my first official offer to going into my junior year, if I'm not mistaken. And so, so that's when it started really clicking. And once the first official offer, I think it was a school, I think it was after my sophomore year, going into my junior year, started getting some of the looks. And like Duquesne University's Atlantic 10 school in Pittsburgh. And so, man, once that started opening up, more offers started to come in, and so really I didn't get the look and attention of the high majors, until my senior year, and even then I didn't have a plethora of those, man. But man, all the way from I would say College of Charleston, UAB actually came on the scene going into my senior year, Western Kentucky, Tulane, but I would just say as far as Clemson, I mean, really that was for me, that was a great opportunity. It was an ACC school, something that I can turn down, and then I was in Greenville, South Carolina, which is only like 30 minutes from Clemson. So I was right there, man. And we had a new coach that came to Clemson, and we were part of his first, recruiting class. And so that was really exciting. And so during that year, man, they had, they were looking for 5 new freshmen to come in. And so, man, I was blessed and fortunate to be part of the 5 that started that year in 2004, man. But I would just say, but every summer, man, just getting better and better. And the biggest thing there is just showing up, man, showing up and showing out, man, standing out in the crowd. And so that would be the biggest thing, man, just kind of cutting through the guys. But also there's one thing, I know we're talking about, sports and how did it work out, but, one of the things that I share with kids too, man, is that like, hey, none of these opportunities would present itself and will reveal itself if you didn't have if I and a lot of guys that I know, if you don't have the scores and the education, man. And so especially when you're on the margin, man, you can't afford not to be marketable and not to have whether it's your SAT. In South Carolina we did SAT. I know in Alabama it's more ACT driven, but
CT.
it's still the same thing. I mean, you can't afford to have those scores and have the appropriate GPAs. I mean, unless you 6'8", 6'9", you just have more leeway. That's just the
Yeah.
reality, man. But when
Yeah.
you're not, you don't have that type of size, certain things you just can't get away with, man. And so I would just say that was also big for me, man. I never had an issue, with my schoolwork, my coursework, and having the grades. Like I wasn't a liability, in the classroom and getting into school and holding that standard, and so that's another thing that I would point out there is that wasn't an issue for me. So so therefore, a lot of opportunities came up because the number one thing that they're always going to ask you. I mean, I don't know, things are so different now, but back in the days, man, when coach started talking to you, is how's your grades, how's your GPA, how are you looking on your SAT or your ACT? At least that was the conversations back then, man. So I didn't want to never allow my grades to be a deterrent, from some of those, basketball opportunities, man. And so luckily that wasn't the case. So.
Awesome, man. I want to ask you another thing. When you got to Clemson, man, you
Yeah.
became known as a defensive leader. Where did that mentality come from?
Yeah. No, listen, hey, I think everybody has to know themselves. And, I would just say, really, how do you get on the court? And, for me, it was playing hard, finding a role and filling the niche. I mean, that was my niche, obviously being, athletic, being able to bring energy, rebound and, certainly create a little chaos. Hey, that's the role that I needed to fill, and that was how I was gonna find my minutes and find find a space. And so for me, that was just about bringing the energy every day, and day in and day out competing, man, and setting the tone. We played a pretty high pace style back then, and so. We pressed a lot. We got out in the open court and really played that style. So I would just say, man, just having the opportunity to really play really, really hard, man. But that's really in the DNA of where we come from, man. I never had the opportunity to play for Coach Knight, man. But just growing up, going to the games, my brothers playing, and obviously understanding what it was to be a Yellow Jacket. Hey, you was gonna press, right? You was gonna play hard if you was gonna play for the Abbeville Yellow Jacket. So I think it was just in my DNA, man, to just always play hard and knowing that, hey, that's a way to carve out, a lane and carve out a niche, man, especially competing in the ACC, man. That was what I had to bring, like I said, in order to carve out a niche.
Awesome, man. I'd like to ask you about guarding some of those elite ACC players, man. Can you think of any of the guys that might have gave you a lot of challenges trying to guard guys in the ACC, some of the guys you played against?
Yeah, I would just say my mind always goes to my freshman year. First of all, it was night in, night out, no nights off type of story, man, especially ACC, where they're historically known for guards, man. But, man, my freshman year, man, we had Georgia Tech. They had Jared Jack, and Ishmael Muhammad. Oh, you'll have to go back and look at Ishmael Muhammad, man. But that was a year he was just jumping over everybody, man, and just putting people, in the basket. Man, North Carolina State had Julius Hodge, 6'6", guard forward. Virginia had Sean Singletary, JR. Can't think of his last name, but man, probably the toughest squad was the North Carolina squad, man. They had that year they had Ray Felton at the point, Shad McCants, Marvin Williams came off the bench, believe it or not, Darius.
Wow.
I don't know if you remember Marvin Williams went to Atlanta, stretch forward.
Yeah.
Who else was on that squad? Sean May, big Sean May, power forward. But I would just say, man, probably that year was Shad McCants. He was 6'4", about 220, man. And he was just so strong and like, I mean, his skill work was off the chart, man. So I would say between Sean May, and I'm gonna tell you another name, JJ Redick, that during those years. But JJ was so tough because you just had you chasing him around all game, so you
Yeah.
getting picked off all game, coming off them doubles, singles, and
Yeah.
Anyway, I guess two guys that come to mind. Rashad McCants, who played, Rashad played about 7, 8 years, should have played longer in the league, but, played 7, 8 years, first round pick. And then, obviously, JJ Redick, but he was
Yeah.
tough because he just never stopped moving, man. He reminded me of, I'm not trying to compare him to Curry, but he was just like Curry, man. He just never stopped. Now, obviously, Curry was a different beast, man. But yeah, I would say those two cats, man.
Okay. One thing I was looking at, man, I remember, I don't know, I might have been 11th grade or 10th grade or something, and I think YouTube it just came around or something like that came around, but I
Yeah.
did see a clip of you. One thing that people still talk about, you had a dunk.
Mhm.
I think you dunked over Sheldon Williams from
Mhm.
Duke. Can you
Mhm.
kind of talk about how you came up with that play or in that moment, what you felt during that moment?
Yeah, I mean, just being a basketball player, man, nothing prescribed or anything. Just in the moment, in the moment, in the game. I think Duke is at our place. I think it was a ESPN game too, if I'm mistaken, Darius. But anyway,
Yeah.
one of those things where, I think I passed it to one of our guards, and he went in the lane for a floater. And of course, man, I roll and what I'm playing, obviously I got to crash the board. So came in there and crashed the board, but I just went up there and got it, man, just instinctively. That's just something that's innate. And so, perfect bounce, perfect timing, and went and got it, man.
Awesome, man. So can you think about maybe one of your favorite memories while having a Clemson jersey on?
Yeah. Man, so many, man. I can probably point to my senior year that comes top of mind. I mean, I had a time, man, because I had a great time, man. Fulfilled dreams that I never would have thought of, man. So, but I would say probably my senior year, man. We actually, you know, well, my junior year is funny. We were really good, man. We started out the year, like 25-1, 25-2 in my junior year, man. So that was a good start. And then that junior year, now we had some injuries and some challenges, but we end up, believe it or not, man, we end up missing the tournament my junior year. Now we went to the NIT, but we made it to the championship game in NIT that year. And then we played at MSG at Madison Square Garden that year and played 2 games. So I would say that was a highlight. Being in New York City and playing at Madison Square Garden twice, staying up there for a full week, and making it to the championship game. But my senior year, finally making it to the tournament. Actually, we was a 5th seed. Now, don't ask me, how many games we won, because we was a first round exit. We got caught up in that 5 versus 12. We lost to Villanova
Oh,
with Scotty Reynolds and those guys, man. Scotty Reynolds, Kyle and all those guys. 5 versus 12. We was up by 20 points at halftime. So don't ask me about
wow.
the game. But I would just say, my senior year making a tournament, and then even that year we beat Duke in the ACC tournament. To make it to the championship game, lost to North Carolina in the championship game. But I would say, senior year, like I said, going to the tourney, beating Duke to make it to the ACC championship game that year in 2008. So those are a few memories that come top to mind. I'm sure there's more, but those are certainly 2 of the top that I can think of, man.
Okay. So what was kind of your biggest challenge while playing basketball at Clemson? I mean, I know the competition level was different from high
Mhm.
school. You had probably had to balance your academics and trying to stay mentally locked in. So what was probably your biggest challenge?
Yeah, no, that's man, that's an understatement. I think it's just really the time management. Time management, I would just say the consistency of going to class, getting your workout in, going to treatment, going to study hall, and going to practice, and then getting your extra work in, and obviously balancing your social life and everything. But I would just say, man, just that consistency. That's what unfortunately grabs a lot of guys, man. It's just not being able to, be consistent day in and day out. And so I would just say, being tired, let's say we go to Boston College, on a Tuesday night and the game is at 8:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30 tip off. And, for us, we typically, are going to fly right back. And so, coming back from, like I said, Boston College, I'm just giving an example, but flying back from Boston College on a Tuesday night, well, you'll get back Wednesday morning at 1, 2 o'clock. And, you still got class Wednesday at 9 or 10 o'clock the next day. And so just examples of how, you still got to be able to just be consistent and show up. And, but I would just say time management and just being focused, being, understanding that, basketball is a tool to get to where you're trying to go, like, leverage the game. And like, I've seen a lot of game to leverage them, but leverage the game, use that as a great network. But then while you're there, if you're in school, make sure you maximize, your time, build, community and a perimeter outside of sports. And obviously pick a discipline and truly start thinking about some of those next steps, because the ball will stop bouncing. They used to tell us that, Darius, and so that's a real thing. And that's a real thing. And so I would just say just balancing the schedule, the grind, and just being consistent. But that's the biggest thing I could say, just consistently showing up day in and day out. But that's also, a parallel to life as well, man. Just consistently showing up for your kids, for your family, for your teammates at work or whatever, the profession may be. I mean, so I think that's very appropriate, and it translates very well, once you get in a professional setting too. So.
Awesome, man. I think I did my research correct. It says you won the Spirit of Clemson Basketball Award. Kind of, what does that say about you as a teammate? Who you were as a teammate?
Yeah, no, listen, I think, I don't know. I think it goes back to my DNA and to some of those characteristics, those attributes that I would like to think I possess, man, as far as being just a great dude, coming from a great family, coming from a great town, man. Like I said, I truly always represented, or I truly bragged about where I was from, and hopefully I represented, my hometown, which is, like I said, Abbeville, Alabama, incredibly well. And so for me, it was all about, just kind of showing up, being a leader, and ensuring that, that I put, the right, the right stuff out there, man, and just always try to be true to myself. And like I said, just had a mission. And so for me, nothing was going to stop me from the mission of, completing that. And that's, graduating school, and truly leveraging my time, while I was in school. And so hopefully I did it, and obviously, voted by my teammates, voted by the coaching staff for that award my senior year. So that's something I'm proud of, as far as being able to, have some of those leadership, characteristics, man.
Okay, so I know we talked about this quite a bit already, but I kind of wanted to expound upon it. What did basketball teach you about life that kind of applies to this day?
Man, that's a loaded one. Because we can obviously spend a ton of time on this topic, but man, I think just simply put, teamwork, hard work, dedication, all those attributes, man, kind of all those things that's needed, in order to operate within a team. But I would also say just having pride, having a pride in what you're doing, and who you're doing it with. And like I said, man, I would just say basketball is something that I'm honored to always have played. And I don't take this for granted, man. Like, coming from where we come from, just the pride that we had in basketball, man. And, obviously not, I only play City League, but, but I just think about our times in City League, man, and the pride we had by representing our town. And I remember putting, after you had the regular season and you go into the, I guess the state playoffs. I don't know what we called it then, Darius, but
Yeah.
how we would go into the All-Star selection, and then we would get the opportunity to put on those Abbeville jerseys. And so I just remember the pride of, donning, that maroon and white, man. And so I just think, man, it's something about it being in our DNA, and it's truly, a culture for us. And so I would just say, just family oriented and having, all those characteristics, man. So.
Okay. I remember earlier you said, the ball stops for everybody. So I
Yeah.
know after college, you were able to finish up at Clemson. So
Yeah.
basically, what kind of career or did you get into after college?
Yeah. Yeah. No, man. One thing, like you said, one thing that I'm always, pretty consistent and try to stay dialed in when I'm talking to mentees or just, some of the younger cats and younger brothers and sisters, like just making sure that they're, a whole person, as we say. And hey, don't get me wrong, go all out, reach higher heights, hopefully that's, a professional athlete, but man, certainly you can be a professional in many other things too. And so for me, that was always true with me. And so now I was fortunate that, again, like I said, I'm the baby out of 10. And so I had it easy because they had already set the standard as far as being able to be a collegiate, or excuse me, be a college graduate. And so for me, it was just a standard to go to college and graduate in the cell. So they had already reached that, milestone. And so I would say for me, that was always in me. It was really a non-negotiable for me as far as being able to go to school and graduate. And so after I finished Clemson, man, I would say I was kind of in a crossroads between, did I want to go back and get my master's, or did I want to go ahead and dive into the professional ranks? And so I was close to staying in the collegiate rank and get my master's and hopefully going down the path of athletic leadership. I did an intern with our AD. Man, I had interviewed for a job, believe it or not, at the NCAA home office in Indianapolis, Indiana. And
Wow.
so now I didn't get the intern. It was like a year-long paid internship in the marketing department. But it's funny,
Mhm.
man, obviously God always has a plan. I just remember being crushed about not getting that internship, because if I, would have got the internship in Indiana, that just would have paid dividends for a permanent role with the NCAA. But anyway, I said it to say that didn't work out. But like I said, I thought about I'm going to get my master's, like I said, and staying around and staying in athletic, vicinities. But I'll just say another opportunity presented itself, and and believe it or not, it was in the tire business. And I'll make a long story short. I've been in the tire business ever since, man. So I started working for Michelin Tire right out of school. It was a couple months, that had passed once I graduated in the spring of 2008. But in fall of 2008, man, I started in corporate sales with Michelin Tire. And man, I've been in the tire business, ever since. And so I've had the opportunity, man. We've bounced around a few times, man. I've, lived in 5 different markets, man, in the tire business. So it's certainly been a pleasure. I would have never thought, like, being in the automotive / tire business. But it's certainly something that, like I said, one, I'm glad that God allowed the door to be closed for that NCAA internship, and for, not pursuing, like I said, the master's at the time. And then, like I said, just, took this opportunity. Honestly, Darius, I thought it was going to be short lived. I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And like I said, man, 18 years later, I'm still here, man. So.
Wow. That's amazing, man. That's amazing. So maybe to any young kid that maybe get a chance to watch this, or what kind of advice would you give to some of these young athletes, maybe, in the Abbeville area or anywhere else, chasing Division I dreams like you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I'll say is, number one, hone your craft. Like, what value are you going to bring? And so again, if that's whether it's a basketball player, whether it's a football player, or it's just 100% academia, just bring value and truly hone whatever it is that you're trying to present. And so, I think a lot of times, we have some guys that, don't hone it in, man, and don't just spend the necessary time. So I would just say, spend the necessary time, And then when you do get the opportunity, you know, and this is sports related, but when you do get the opportunity, man, you gotta stand up, stand out. You know, as far as getting opportunities to go to college, that's the biggest thing. Like I said, man, when I was playing AAU, came from Alabama, came to a whole nother state, had to reinvent myself, had to show up and show out. You know, and you know whether we was in Vegas, Florida, or anywhere, man, or Jersey, you know, you got to find something and do something that, you know, that's going to stand out, or somebody decides that, hey, you know what, I want to give you a 4-year, you know, athletic, you know, scholarship, or, you know, from an academia standpoint, you know, hey, you know, take the advanced courses, take the accelerated courses, you know, do all those necessary things, you know, to really stand out and be marketable. But then, you know, from a student athlete standpoint, you know, of course we know the saying, be more than an athlete, but honestly, that's something I would, you know, really encourage, the young guys from the hometown, or just anywhere for that matter, man, like truly be a whole person, man. You know, and don't take it for granted, you know, whatever opportunities you may have, or, you know, whatever situation you may have, just go get it, and really maximize it. And then also too, you know, start finding something that you're passionate about, and then start working it. But at some point too, start deciding, you know, what it is that you actually just, you know, want to do. So try things. You know, you can always pivot and shift, you know, if those certain pathways don't work out. But I would just also say, man, you know, some of our kids just, at some point you got to choose, you got to decide as well. But you know, the obvious there is making sure, you know, our kids have, you know, the necessary, you know, grades and exposure. And again, just being a whole person, as we like to say, and just using sports just as a tool, not being the be all and end all. So,
Okay. Man, I have to ask this question, man. And
yeah,
we
yeah,
all sit around and talk about it sometime. I know you mentioned earlier talking about the
yeah,
guys that you played
yeah,
with at Abbeville,
yeah.
man. And we talk about 2003. A lot of people say, hey, that might have been the best team Abbeville ever put on the floor. Now, I think you would have been the 11th grade that year,
Yeah, that would have been my 11th grade year. Yeah,
you know, and they
yeah.
could have put you out there on that wing, man, or put you at the 3 or the 4. What do you think that would have looked like, Sam?
Listen, man. Listen. First of all, I'm not qualified to speak on who the best team, you know, is, because, you know, I never suited up for 5.
Gotcha.
I left at 14. But I
Yeah.
will say this: I can speak for that class of 03, because them, you know, those are guys we grew up with. You know, me and
Yeah.
Chris. You know, that's my dog. We battled each other. You know, in City League. Chris, Sewell,
Yeah.
Dex.
Yeah.
Man, Chief. I mean,
Chief.
those
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you another cat, man, and obviously, you know, he showed out and did his thing. But man, I'm gonna tell you one of the cats who was the most skilled guy, and I'll just speak from our era, me and Chris and our era and Sewell area. But man, the
Yeah.
most skilled guy was Deshaun.
Yeah.
You know, Sean Danzy. I ain't
Yeah.
heard, ain't seen him in forever, but man, he was so skilled, man. Tough, you know, super tough. But that would have been his senior, if I'm not mistaken, it would have been his senior year, right? 03?
Yeah. He would have been his senior. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Deshaun, Sewell, Chris, Dex, Martez, Chief.
Yeah.
Give me some.
Yeah.
Am I missing somebody? I mean, I know there's more guys, but
I think you covered. I think you
yeah, we
covered
had.
about everybody. Let's
I
see.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm just
You
saying.
said Dex, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Dex at the point, you know,
Yeah.
Martez, you know,
Martez.
Jermaine,
There's quite a few. Yeah. Jermaine was on that team.
Jermaine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm saying, like, we all, like I said, man, you know, no, it's City League, man, but we won that thing 14U, and we won it
Yeah.
against them, against those cats from Mobile, man. We had some guys, and we had played together all those years, you know. Now, obviously,
Yeah.
you know, 96, that's the year, you know, they're in another hemisphere, man. But you know, that can't be denied or debated, obviously, you know.
Yeah.
But we had a nice little. We had some guys.
Oh,
We had
most
some guys.
definitely.
What would you say?
Man, I take y'all. I put my money on y'all, man, because you know I had to, you know, play against those guys in practice, and you know ran against those guys, and I played against you and all y'all growing up, man. So I put my money on y'all, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. I might
Okay.
get slightly
What
full, but
what does everybody say? Like what's the word back on? Like who's the like I said,
man,
96 is different. You can't even
yeah,
like
yeah,
they
that's
won
different.
it.
That's different.
They're in a whole nother hemisphere. Like so outside of 96, what everybody say?
Everybody gives the '03, man. Everybody gives the
Oh, for
'03,
real?
man.
Okay.
You got a couple of more. I want to say they go for '03. I want to say '09. You know, they went back to the championship.
Oh, see now those
Um,
cats so they're younger than I wouldn't know any of those.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And then I think was it 01 maybe or 2000 something like that maybe. They had a
Okay,
really good team, man. You know,
okay.
they had a really good team. I think they had Ronnie Dennis on that team. They had
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
several
yeah,
guys
yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. I remember him. But I think we had good size, man. Like we was, I mean, because
all around, man. Y'all was
Deshaun every bit of 6'5", 6'6".
every bit,
You
every
know,
bit.
you got, Chris 6'2", but play like he's 6'8",
Yeah,
fast, Sewell,
yeah,
Leon,
yeah.
those great hops, great bunnies, you know what I mean?
I think I missed
That's
one.
some guy.
I think Victor Lawrence was on that team too.
Okay, so he might now, but he didn't. Was he from Abbeville?
Yeah, but he came in late. I think he started out in Barber County.
Okay, I don't remember him, Darius. Okay, because
Yeah,
he never.
yeah, he came
So
in late.
okay. So I don't remember him because he didn't play he didn't play City League with us. I don't remember.
No,
I don't
no,
remember
no,
him.
no. He played City League with us.
Okay, yeah, yeah. So that's what I would say, man. I would just say, hey man, we got some guys, man. But like I said, I remember growing up, always hearing about obviously the teams in the '90s and even the '80s for that matter, man. Obviously had some guys, man. So, man, we were just blessed with talent, man. I always the one thing I will say, man, I used to always brag about where I was from. I said, man, I said, man, we got some guys,
Yeah,
we had some guys, so I always bragged about, the town that I was from, they just used to call me Bama, when I
yeah,
first came to Carolina, Bama. So yeah.
yeah, man. Sam, man, I sure appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah.
Was there anything that you would like to say, man? Maybe to the youth, anything?
Yeah, now, like I said, man, one, appreciate you having me on, man. Good seeing you, man. Really appreciate what you're doing, man. Enjoy your campaign, so keep it up, number one. And number two, but I would just also say, for the kids, for the youth that's out there, just like I said, man, just have pride in whatever it is that you're doing. And obviously, write out, some of those goals, whatever ambitions that you have, and just continue to just fight to go get it, and just find a way to be successful, man. And so, if it's sports, it's the main. Use sports, don't allow sports to use you. And again, if it's 100% academia, make sure you're excellent, in the academics. And for us, man, we're blessed, man. We just come from a rich history, rich tradition, man. We come from a town, we have doctors, lawyers, educators, obviously sports, so military, public service folks. So man, we come from a town where we have very honorable people, and so that's something that we take pride in. It's funny, man. I think about, without even thinking about it at the time, but man, I just think about the way, our town was, and the way, we always made sure our jerseys was tucked in. We looked a certain
Yeah,
way, and so I just remember, the pride that we had, and obviously, that all stems from Coach Knight setting a tone, setting the culture, in the
yeah,
city. And obviously, that's something that, we still hold true for all of us, even though I never had a chance to play, that's something that's still embedded, in us, man. And so, but yeah, man, no, that's it, man. Just obviously find something that you're passionate in, and make a decision, and certainly keep God first, and understand where your health and wealth comes from, and really go from there.
awesome, man. Awesome, man. I really appreciate you coming on my show, man. Thank you so much, man. You always be an Abbeville legend to me in my books, man. And
Oh, man.
all right, take it easy, man.
Yeah, all right, Darius. Appreciate it, man. Good. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
All right.